So now we can move on to the analysis of this table. Okay, so first I need to find out how many deposits were made in in each quarter. So always when we need to do some analysis or when we have some database, it's important to see which analysis we can do, which analysis we need for the time. Okay, so if you pay attention, here I need the quantity of deposits, the total deposited, and the average per quarter. So here are per quarters. But when we talk about the highest deposit, is from all the year. Okay, so we need to pay attention on this. And I told you, and maybe you can believe me, that Excel is quite intuitive for these more simple and also the most used formulas. For example, the sum, because we wanted to sum, then we use the formula sum. Now we want to count the deposits, so we can use the formula count. But here is a tricky thing, because zeros are not deposit. No one goes to the bank and says, okay, I want to deposit €0, right? So in this case, it's still quite obvious, like quite intuitive. We want to count if the values are bigger than zero, because if it's zero, it's not a deposit. And also I can't deposit negative numbers. So I just will consider deposit the values that are bigger than zero. So in this case, I will use the formula count if. It's important for you to see, you can by curiosity test, try all these counts that you have here, like count, count A, count blank, count if, and count ifs. We will use most of them during our course, but it's really important for you to also be curious in this stage of the course. Okay, so I will count if in this range. The and now I need to the numbers is bigger. The number is bigger. I will count the numbers that are bigger than zero. Okay, so just by doing this, I find out that from the 10 numbers that you have here, 8 of them are greater than 0. And the same way that when we paste the formula to the lower to the lower cell, the references changes. Also, when I drag the formula to the right, the reference also changes. Okay? But unfortunately, in this case, we don't have an option, for example, to double click and then it would go to the right. Yes, it just works down. So in this case, we simply drag the formula and then it's all good. Okay, we could count them easily. And now for the total deposited, again, we just need to sum our deposits. In this case, I can sum everybody because zeros are irrelevant for sum, but you could also use the formula sum if in cases you, for example, if you had here some negative numbers, like some numbers below zero, and you just wanted to sum the numbers higher than zero, for example. But we'll see this further in our course. And again, like just to show you that there's no right way to work in Excel, we just need the right answers. Here I could, for example, use the formula average, just to think a bit about it. If I simply get the average from these numbers, I have it here, 228.40, but this average considers the zeros. So in this case, I can't use the formula average because it would give me the wrong value. Because in fact, the average here should be, I would need to use the formula average if. That means that from this range here, I want only the values that are bigger than 0. I want to make the average only with these numbers. And then we see that it's a different value, 285 and 50 against 228.40, okay? But also we could simply do the arithmetical calculation of getting the total and splitting by the quantity of deposits. So now it worked. We have the information we needed for this first part of our analysis. And now we are going for the highest deposits and the lowest deposit. If ever you want to use to find the biggest values, we have two formulas that can help us. The first one is this formula large, that when we use, let's see what it tells us, equal to large, it asks us to select an array and k. If you go to this formula, you can click here in this fx, you can wait, yeah, so let's open the help, and the Windows it can be a bit easier, but look at the description. It returns the keyth largest value in a dataset. You can use this function to select a value based on its relative standard. So, resuming, summarizing everything. If it returns the keyth largest value, and I can select key, the k. So what it means is that I can select from all these numbers if I want to get the biggest one or the second biggest one, the third biggest one, and I can define it by simply using, yeah, simply by choosing the right k, okay? And for example, one thing that you need to see also, like that you need to be really careful while we're starting with R, is that is with this symbol here in the formula. In my case, and also in the hints, we are using the computer settings is to use the semicolon to separate one parameter from the other. Can you see? But in many computers, it's simply a comma to separate them. So you need to be careful. Sometimes you are copying the formula from here and pasting, and it's not working. And it's simply because in your computer you should use the comma instead of the semicolon. So we can see that you have the array we selected, and after we press the semicolon, we see that the one that is bold here is the k. So I need to inform which is the k that I will use in this analysis. And in this case, I want the highest deposit, so it will be 1. And I got the answer. To get the same answer, I could also use the formula max. The formula max, it's even simpler because we just need to select the array and then it's done. But so why would I use the formula large? Well, because with the formula large, I can, for example, select the third highest number. And it can be useful in many situations, as we will see during the course. Okay? But the formula max is really useful as well. And for the lowest deposit, We also have the formula min, that stands for minimum. So the formula min that I can select the array and then it will work. But the issue is that the minimum value here is 0 and I don't want 0. I need a number bigger than 0 because 0 is not a deposit. So my idea is like, okay, if 0 is the lowest and I want a bigger number, I will use the formula small, select my array, and instead of using k equal to 1, I will use my k equal to 2, because then I won't get the smallest, I will get one bigger than the smallest. So I try it, and then it returns me 0. But why? Well, I will show you some example here. So imagine that we have these values here, and I want to get the second smallest number. So I want to get the 3. Well, if I use the formula small here in these numbers and ask for the second smallest, it still returns me 1. Even with me thinking that, well, 1 is the smallest number, the second smallest number is 3. But actually no, because the formula large reads exactly like it is, like it's here. It sorts the values from the smallest to largest, and then it says, okay, if you use k equal to 1, then it will be this. If you use equal to 2, it will be this, and so on. So if in fact I wanted to get the 3 as my answer, I would need to do my k equal to 4. And why 4? Because it's the number of ones plus 1. Okay, so if I have 3 number ones here and I don't want to count them, I'm basically doing number of ones plus 1. So if I had here 5 ones that I don't want to consider, I would simply switch here to 5. So I hope you understood. If you had some doubts in this, let me know. But the idea is that, okay, if I come here to this, back to our exercise, and change this k to 3, it's also 0. Why? Because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 zeros, if I'm not wrong. So let's see. I will do the same formula. And do you remember how I organized for the example I showed you? I did the number of the value that I don't want to consider, so the number of zeros, plus 1, because then I get a number different from it. And then I get 12. Well, it's working, but it can be a bit tricky if the database is really big, or if the values change here, then it will simply be ignored, right? Because then it's wrong. I have 12 here. That should be the lowest deposit, but my answer is 52, because actually, instead of having 7, here should be now 6. So can you understand what I did? I went from 7 to 6 because the number of zeros changed. So if I can count these values automatically, then my problem is solved. And as we could do here, that we counted the number different than 0, like bigger than 0, we can do the same to count the zeros. So I will count if from this range the numbers are equal to 0. I could do exactly as we did and do like this, equal to 0. But just for you to know, if I do like this, it works. Yes, so here was 0. If I do like this, it works, right? But actually I don't need to do like this. I can simply use 0 when I'm using the count if and my criteria is a number, I can simply write the number because Excel understands. So now when I come back to my formula, instead of writing the amount of zeros, I can get this information from this other cell, from G27. So once we do it, we have the information. Okay. One thing that can be good for you to verify the formulas you are writing is like you select your parameter and then you press F9. Once you do it, the formula is kind of solves the formula you did. But at the same time, this is dangerous because it becomes true. Like, for example, I came here and I pressed F9. Then my formula, the code I wrote before here, is gone. And then I just have the number. So it's good for verification, but it's good to always press the Control Z after it. So we have the values varying again and not only the number 8. Okay, and now everything seems to be working. If our database here changes, our analysis changes as well, so seems to be all good. But the thing is that what about this 7 here? It's not pretty to have it there. uh, we can try to hide it and so no one sees it. But then what if someone, by any chance, simply delete it, as I just did now? Well, then our formula is screwed. If I come here and delete it, our formula is screwed. So in these cases, it's good to have all the information at the same formula. So, uh, just a second. Why am I reading why in this formula here in the C27, why am I reading the G27? Well, simply because it has a formula that I want to know, that I want to use to have the value, right? So what I can do is to come here to my formula. Something happened. Now it's comma instead of the semicolon, but we can adapt to it. So let's see. So from now on, I will be using the comma. It's a good error to happen because then you see that you need to be aware of what's happening. So now I'm using comma in the formulas, okay? So why am I selecting the formula G27? Well, because it has a useful formula, but I can simply come to this formula here, copy it. So I copy the formula and then I go up again to my formula in our table and tell Excel that instead of having the G27, what I want is this formula here. Okay. And just one thing that you maybe noticed is that I can delete this equal here, the equal sign. It's not, it's not, actually I can't have this equal sign here again. We just use the equal sign in when we to tell Excel that we are working in this cell, and we want to write to input some information there. So we can't use the equal before every formula that we are using. And by doing this, we have our first like nested formula. So we have one formula inside the other, and when we press enter, something is not working. Probably is because of this button that I pressed. I don't know, maybe I will need to use the semicolon. Yeah, so now my information says that I need to use the semicolon, but actually, yeah, just some issues here with Apple and Microsoft. So many times they don't work as expected. So in this case now, in my hints, it tells me that I should use the comma, but in practice, I need to use the semicolon. Okay? The important thing is that it's working, and we will deal with it. Okay? And now I can finally delete this number that is lost here. And I could do all my information. I can even assign here as a euro. So came here to this part in the middle that is related to numbers. And then I say that I want as euros. And now I can go to the next exercise. So first, make the grid lines disappear. And this is really easy. Grid lines are these gray lines here that I think are the first image people have when they think about Excel. And that's kind of pollutes our image actually, our view. Just take a look and pay attention to what I said. I said that it pollutes our view, right? So if I want to remove something from our view, I come here to the tab view and say that I don't want grid lines anymore. And the same for the heading bars. Okay, so like this, it can be much more clean, much cleaner our view, right? To be honest, we won't use it like this so often because it's better to have the headings to help us to locate ourselves. But in case you are showing your analysis to someone that won't be using much the Excel, just will consult, then sometimes it's pretty like this because I think that the less information we have, uh, the less it looks like Excel. So, for example, if you show someone some charts or analysis that is in something like this, people, it doesn't even look like Excel, you know, and then people really enjoy it. Like it's pretty to see it. In Microsoft, to remove this area here, you need to, there's a pin button here, and then you can pin or unpin this ribbon. Okay, so let's go. And finally, the last exercise, to use conditional formatting to highlight deposits higher than 600 from the table 1. So what I can do is like to come here. Imagine if I want to highlight the deposits higher than 600. Imagine if I needed to come here and paint one by one. Then here, then another one. Well, it would take some time. It most likely we would make some mistake. So it's much better when we want to apply some formatting related to some condition than to use, it's much better to use this tool that we have that is called conditional formatting. And if you check it, we can create new rules here. That will be really useful in this example. So we come here and create new rules. The window in Windows is a bit different, but basically, yes, we can create some rules related to the formatting, like to the condition that will be used to format the cells. Uh, in this case, I want a classic. That means that I will format cells that contain a value that is greater than 600, and I will fill it with some customized format that will be dream. Okay, I can even like change the color of the font of this, and everything will be applied in those cells that meet this criteria. So as you could see, everything worked. But let's say that now I say, actually, this one, Harry Potter, shouldn't be painted like this because he was the no. Let's talk about this. Uh, yeah, this was the highest deposit, so it deserves a different color. Then I can't come simply here and change his color because he's under conditional formatting. So anything I do, I won't see. Any formatting I change, I won't see because the conditional formatting overlaps it. Okay? So in this case, if for example I want to remove the conditional formatting from here, I click here and I say that I want to clear the rules from the selected cell. Or if I want to remove the conditional formatting from all of them, I can come here. Or if I want to change the colors, I can come here and manage rules and edit this rule to switch the color, or simply delete this rule. Okay, so in this case now I deleted everything, and I will apply. I'll show you now. I'll just copy this format from here to this lowest cell, and I will apply again the formula, but just to show that it can be even quicker simply by clicking in conditional formatting. And we have already some options uh, presented to us, and is exactly the one we need. Highlight cells greater than 600, and then I will say that I want it green fill with dark green text. And we have what we needed. Okay, so let me know what you thought about this video, this first video, if the audio is good, if everything went well, if you need some additional help. Okay, and yeah, let's keep in touch. Just keep practicing and practicing and practicing, and be curious, try to do some different stuff, and especially with this conditional formatting, with the conditional formulas, and see how things work, because then you will have doubts, and with these you will learn a lot. Okay, so bye, see you next video or next class.